Hey you going RPG fans? Tonight I'm just going to be doing my January pickups video. Throughout the week I'll continue on with my dissection of the RPG series, and I've also got a rant planned where I talk about the NGP and my views on it. But without further ado, here's the games. First up is Final Fantasy Chronicles. Um, I've already talked about this in my Final Fantasy 4 video. I thought it was a nice little package, but because I don't have the means to play NTSC games, it's pretty much just gonna stay in the wrap and stay on the shelf. Next up, and these were very big surprises, I must say. Um, when I went to my local game traders, I went to the Master System section. Now, I don't usually find stuff at the Master System section. Just the one time I bought something was Wonder Boy 3, and there was really nothing there. But I went there 2 weeks ago, and to my surprise, they had two of the 9 role playing games there. So I got them without question. I actually played both of these when I was a kid, and they're not too bad. I quite enjoyed them. And they are Lord of the Sword and Dragon Crystal. Lord of the Sword is pretty much a very straightforward 2D action adventure. There's not really much role playing elements in the game, but it's a nice piece to have. See, one thing they did with the Master System era is they lumped in adventure and role playing together. And back then, I didn't really know the difference because I thought it was the same sort of genre. So, but it's not a bad game. There's some difficulty with controls and stuff, but I got past it and I enjoyed it. And Dragon Crystal was the first roguelike I played. I think it was like seven or eight, and I kind of enjoyed it. It did make me angry at times. It is quite a difficult game. Like other roguelikes, it's got a food system, and then it's got an item system where it's assigned to a color. And in one playthrough, say for example, like the color brown, like one playthrough, if you drink a brown potion, it might be poison, or in another one, it might, you know, increase your stats somewhat. Just like that. So there is a luck element to playing this game, so you just have to be cautious and you gotta trust your gut instinct. Really, what's really cool is this is a was part of a package deal. Around the same time, there was a game called Fatal Labyrinth that was released, and both games are similar. Fatal Labyrinth was on the Mega Drive, and this came out on the Master System. When you play both back to back, you just see so many similar elements to the games that they're pretty much from the same series. And I did confirm it a couple of years ago that yeah, they are part of the same series. So if you played Fatal Labyrinth and want something different, then try out Dragon Crystal. It's on Game Gear as well. Next up, very quickly, I got Sunnah Des. Now, out of all the games I bought this month, this is the one that hasn't grabbed me the most. It's another roguelike game. It's just, I just don't, I think the world just does not interest me. It's it's a very gaggy sort of storyline. You can't take it seriously because there's so many lame, tacky jokes and humor in the game. The only people I can pretty much recommend this for, if you're a fan of ninjas um, and a fan of tacky humor, you might like this. I haven't found really anything to push me to play this, so this is pretty much just going to go back on the shelf. Next up, and this is a game that I owned last year but traded it in, and before I made the vow, um, I kind of regret doing so because I had to go get it again. It wasn't a bad game, it's just I didn't like the ending of it, and that is 3D Dot Game Heroes. Now, I was waiting for this for a very long time because this was a game that really, really interested me because it was made for those players that lived through the 8-bit era, and I lived through it for the most part, and this game just appealed to me so much. What's really fun is when I created my hero, being the shameless East fan that I am, I just created Adol Kristen, and he looked pretty cool, I must admit. I did have a lot of fun with this game, but like I said, I just did not like the final stretch of the game. I mean, when I went to the final area, it looked cool, but when I got inside the final dungeon, I expected so much more. I expected a better design. I expected better encounters with enemies and all that. Nothing. And for all of you, and I know this is kind of a big spoiler, but it's also a big warning. For all of you that's played Dragon Quest 2 or Dragon Warrior 2 to completion, and when you play this game and fight the final boss, you're either going to laugh your ass off or you're going to shake your head in disbelief of what they did. Next up, this is the game I'm playing, and this is another game I owned back in the day, but for one reason or another, I traded it in and got it back again, and that is Gurman, A Monstrous Adventure. Now, this is not a bad game, done by the guys at Neon Falcom, one of my favorite companies, as you all know. This, I must say, was made for an audience that is far younger than myself. It is very twee and is very childlike. So older gamers, you might have a tough time playing this game. But there is a lot of charm to it. It is a kind of a Zelda style action. But also, you guys are like platformers as well. You might love this as well. The storyline's pretty simple. You're the new girl in town and you really have no one to play with, and then you find this monster village opposite side the human town, and it gets attacked by the creatures known as the phantoms, and their village is destroyed and they lose all their belongings. So what the game is structured like is every area holds a piece of furniture or a piece of belonging to a certain monster, and when you complete the level you get that piece and you take it back to the monster village and you give it to them, and they open up more of the world. See, the world is covered in dark mist, and when you return one of the belongings to the monsters, they kind of open up more of the world. So it's very, like I said, very simplistic. It is getting quite challenging right now, so I like to see where it goes. Next game very quickly is Infinite Undiscovery. I used to own this, but when I got rid of my 360 to my nephew, I gave him this. This is made by Triace, and this game is pretty much Triace's attempt to make a Western RPG. It's very blatantly obvious. I played it for about 5 hours and got sidetracked. It just didn't hold my interest. It's a beautiful looking game. I thought the high point of the game was its visuals. Very, very nice to look at. One thing about this game is you get lost a lot, hence the name Infinite Undiscovery. But what really impressed me about this time around is I paid it for full price back in the day. I got it this time for $14. When I saw that, I thought my eyes were about to pop out because could not believe how cheap it is. I don't know if I'll play it again anytime soon, so it's still in the shrink wrap. But when I get my 360, I might give this another go. Next up is, and forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Artonelico 2. Don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Now, I never ever saw this in stores here in Australia. It's in PAL, but I've never seen it released here at all, even in the Australian online stores. So I was very lucky when I found this online. It was only 25 bucks, and that's quite cheap for being brand new. So it is quite a rarity. So I got this without question. It's made by Gust, and I'm not a huge fan of Gust after playing Atelier Iris 1. It's not that I hated the game, I absolutely loved the game. However, there was a huge bug in the game that prevented me from close to finishing it, and that put me into a fit of rage. Ever since then, I kind of been boycotting Gust games. So, well, I've stopped boycotting them, so I probably will give this a go, but I would probably prefer if I can find the first game first before I venture into this one. Now, the last two games I found last week, and I found them at a local cash converters. And to all of you non-Australians watching the show, Cash Converters is our biggest second-hand chain in the country. What's really cool about Cash Converters is they don't really know the value of games. They lump them all into one set price for that certain system. And PS2 games have really gone down in price, so it's really cool to go there and to find a rare game. They have no clue what it is. Um, so the first one that I found was Evergrace, and I remember playing this back in the day, and I hid it out and I took it back the next day. It just didn't interest me. What's really cool is I found this for $7.50, just insanely cheap. So definitely picked it up and crossed it off the list. And the last game I got this month was The Last Remnant. Also found at Cash Converters. It was $19. I don't know if it was a really big bargain. There's some damage to the case and there's a lot of scratches on the disc. The reason why I picked it up is because The Last Remnant in PAL has actually become quite rare. Not as rare as Tales of Vesperia, but rare enough. So $19 was kind of fair to pick it up because I don't think I would have seen it anywhere else for that price. So what's really cool is my dad actually got the PC version, and I asked him if I could have it in my collection, and he said yes. So that's pretty cool. I'll give him a couple of bucks later on, but I think it's pretty cool to have both versions and put them side by side like that. Now, what's really sad is there was supposed to be a PS3 version, but that never surfaced for one reason or another. And what's strange is I haven't played these yet. I mean, I could have played it on the PC before my dad's PC blew up, but for some odd reason I got sidetracked. And I thought I'd get this version and wait until I get my 360 before having a go. So that's all my games for this month. I do have some more games I'm waiting to be received on my end. There's one package coming that I will do an unboxing video. That's going to be my first unboxing video on the channel. And the reason I'm doing it is because there's so much good stuff in that pack that you want to see. But for the rest of the week, I will upload that rant on the NGP, and I most definitely will be continuing on the dissection of the RPG and talk about RPG villains. So, till then, thanks for watching.